I know I'm very late to this whole tunnel effect situation from Sakamoto days to the point where by the time this comes out, the next chapter is going to be premiering in a couple hours. But I still want to kind of throw my hat into the ring and give my honest opinions about this moment because, I'm a big fan of the series and I wanted to at least give my thoughts. Spoilers for Sakamoto days up until chapter 216. Now, a lot of people from outside the fan base have been slandering the hell out of Sakamoto Days through this moment. And I understand why it can be frustrating for a lot of the more hardcore fans because of the fact that no one wants their favorite series to be made fun of. However, I do think that because so many people have been forward about defending the scene, I feel like a lot of people also forget kind of the issues with the scene itself. Admittedly, the tunnel effect as a concept isn't even the worst part about this entire moment. In fact, Atari herself, the person explaining the meme, explains this pretty well, and this was set up by Suzuki, even if it was not the best setup. Back in the prison arc, Atari said so herself that she was all out of luck. However, she did also say that she was saving a last little bit of luck for someone. And with Shin being the only other character in the panel, it was a pretty clever way of hinting the fact that that person would be Shin. And we know that Atari's look is so ridiculous that she is capable of literally shaking up a bag of scrap and having it form to a fully loaded gun with one bullet inside. Atari is ridiculous, plus also has fortune telling capabilities that would be able to pinpoint Shin's location if need be. Finally, Azuki is copying Takamura, the same Takamura that was capable of cutting people's muscle fibers to such a fine point that they can be reattached as well. Theoretically, him being able to cut so quickly that he's able to not leave any real visible damage on someone isn't even that unlikely. Again, I think the real nuances of the problem come from everything surrounding this moment. And also, at least for me, emblematic of a lot of the problems I've had with Sakamoto Days over the past couple of months. Keep in mind, this moment pretty much comes after Shin has continuously been using his ESP to the absolute max of his capability, despite the fact that it was alluded to that it would create a large burden on his body and brain, to the point that he even says he wouldn't be able to move his body anymore as Suzuki has a loaded gun straight to his face. Yet, despite this, Seba, at the exact moment that he needed it most, was able to hack the guns in order to make sure that Shin was alive. Base Shin, that was already exhausted, was still also able to move as a way to get both of them in mid air and also grapple with Azuki on pretty equal footing while in midair for him to luckily land in an aquarium that would have slowed their descent. And while Shin was very unlucky to awaken Takamura personality, we do see that Shin was also capable of accessing ESP and moving at such a fast rate that combined with his precognition, he was able to at least evade Azuki for a very set period of time, which led up to this moment. And that's kind of my issue here. Shin feels like he's getting too many lucky breaks in order for the narrative to justify his continued survival, and also doesn't feel like he's suffering any consequences despite these lucky breaks. I know what you're going to say, but Draco, what about the New Order showing up at the exact same time, all to kick Shin's ass and potentially kill him? Well, I'll just say, why do I feel like I'd be put in any danger? Similar to how I felt when Azuki first showed up in the first place, I don't feel any tension because I know Shin is just going to utilize one of three strategies in order to survive. Because we know that Azuki is sensitive to bloodlust from anyone, even the bloodlust of his allies, Shin is going to use one of three methods to get out of this. One is to use his thought commands as a way to direct bloodlust to X in order to get enough time for himself to escape. Two, he's just going to rage bait like one of the members, probably Kunonomi or Oki, in order to activate this bloodlust again. Or three, he's just going to get saved by someone. Or maybe some combination of the three. That's how predictable it feels. Similar to how Azuki show up, I don't feel any tension because I know the fact that having your big bad show up against your Deuteragonist that's guaranteed to survive isn't really tension. And also because the entirety of X's group is very fraudulent. X's group's only notable wins are against Takamura and Hio. Takamura has arguably been written as an asshole, or at the very least an anomaly, even by Sakamoto's standards, and has only really been utilized as a way for Izuki to become the big bad, or Hio, who is the least developed member of the Order. So, while yes, I felt bad that he died, I also don't feel as bad that he died in comparison to a Shishiba. And also, too, none of the members of the Sakamoto's cast has ever really, main Sakamoto cast, I should say, have ever really suffered any real consequences. Technically speaking, the only reason why Azuki has the leg up that he has now is because Oki gave him the previous director of the JAA's location. It's not like Azuki went out there, or we got to see Azuki basically fight in this base to get more character development and introspection. And this kind of bleeds into my second main issue. Suzuki is way too quick to introduce and throw away different plot elements and character progressions depending on what demands it. And it gets really annoying really fast a lot of the time, for me personally. I feel like we could have had multiple chapters to at least explore a Japan that's basically going through a forever purge right now, with also the Sakamoto cast getting run down by just having to put out too many fires and counting on everyone working in a collaborated effort. That's not really what's happening here. It feels like they're very passive, and because of that, them getting out of a lot of these scenarios doesn't feel as rewarding as it should be. I can suspend my disbelief enough for the tunnel effect. What I can't suspend is the fact that everything happened to make sure that Shin could survive, and it doesn't feel narratively satisfying that he did all this without really any form of real consequences. If Shin had maybe lost a finger or an ear, or hell, maybe wasn't even in danger of running out of his ESP to begin with, then I feel a lot more differently about him being able to survive a fight with not only the main bad guy now, but pretty much every bad guy in the series still currently there. And it just feels like a cheap way to make sure that Shin in any future encounter can't just easily use his thought commands as a way to instantly get the dub. So, yeah, I'm hoping that Suzuki is able to make this work for the next couple of fights and chapters, but right now, I just feel no tension from Sakamoto days, and it is partially due to everything surrounding the tunnel effect, not the tunnel effect itself. So, what are your thoughts on this whole moment? And please let me know in the comments below. Have a nice rest of the day.